Alright, so everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started with our program today. I'm excited to introduce participants and the teachers and students of the Cherokee Language Master Apprentice program. We've got Ryan Mackey, I believe that, and Howard Payton. I believe this is, 3 years old on the, 4 years old now on the program?
Yeah, we're four years into it.
Okay. Before we get started, just want to let everyone know that we are live streaming this event, so just please silence your phones or turn them off. I'm also going to pass around a sign-in sheet. So I have an email list, and if you want to be reminded about these are the third Thursday of every month, then I'll send out an email usually a few days before. We've also got Principal Chief Baker here today. Excited that, I think this is the first one you came to, isn't it? And then also Secretary of State, Chuck Hoskin Jr. So excited that they're here today, and I think that they want to say a little bit about this program. This is a new initiative of the Cherokee Nation for the language program. So with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Chief Baker. And you can't hear on this, but the live stream folks can.
Oh, okay. It is an honor and privilege to come over here today, and this third Thursday, I don't know why, but it has been has not gelled with my schedule, and so this is truly the first time that I've gotten the opportunity to come over. But it's not that big a deal. When you hire really good people that are passionate about what they're doing, then I don't have to micromanage or come in and critique, and it is obviously a great success or this room would not be packed right now. And I can't say enough about Catherine and her passion for teaching, her passion for our language, her passion for our history, but it says a lot about each and every one of you in this room as well. I learn new things about our Cherokee history and our Cherokee family every day. So it doesn't matter where you grew up or how you grew up, there's new things to learn each and every day that fill you with pride the more that you do learn. So I appreciate each and every one of you participating and in this program, and it will only make our tribe stronger. So, we'll do.
Secretary, would you like to say a few words?
OCO friends, it's good to be with you. This gathering is two of my favorite Cherokee Nation initiatives, all in the same venue. CCO, which oversees all of this, I think does some of the most important work in the nation, reaching out to our communities. And you all know this, but we see it when we go out in the communities. There's a great hunger for language and culture and history and reconnecting with that. And so CCO does, I think, an amazing job of doing that. And here's the other thing. I'm guessing most of the folks here are Cherokee Nation employees. And this should be an inspiring lunch for you, because the truth of the matter is, it wasn't your Chief Baker who said, let's do this particular type of language program. Chief just said we need to do everything we can to save our language, promote our language, and it was Cherokee Nation employees. It was Ryan and Howard who said we should do this. Now, not every idea that we come up with that comes to our minds is something we can do at the Cherokee Nation. We can't do any of it if we don't imagine what we might do. If staff doesn't imagine what we might do, if the leaders don't imagine what we might do to make things better, or citizens don't imagine what we could do, because we're doing a whole lot more now than we did a decade ago, a generation ago, and we'll do more a decade from now and a generation from now if we keep imagining what we might do and not necessarily be limited by what we just see in front of us. So today you'll see an example of what can happen when you sort of look beyond what you can see right in front of you. If you can imagine what we might do as a Cherokee Nation. And in this case, we're doing it. We're getting great results. So I love to just bear witness to this and see the good work, and thank you for letting me be a small part of it. What else? Thanks, Ryan.
I guess, huh?
Wadegaliske Dawadon. Itayalichis, Jitadonha, Jitanikohi. My name is Ryan, and it's a pleasure to have everybody here. We got together about 4 years ago and proposed this idea to administration. Chaluk Gawonihi, Stani Wisask is what we decided to call it, and that means Cherokee language planners. Not planners, but planters. The idea is that we were planting the seeds of the language in young adults, people that are going to lead the next generation. Our goal wasn't just to create speakers. Our goal was to create teachers that would create speakers, to maximize the impact of our footprint. We hope that along the process that we give them not just the tools to be good teachers, but to be good leaders in our communities. We have been working with the language for some time, and it's been a personal passion of mine since I was young, and with Howard since he was a young child. And although I grew up hearing some Cherokee when I was little, I knew a few words. It was not my first language. I was not a speaker. I heard my grandparents, and I thought it was great. When I spoke to them, they said there are people back home that are taking care of it. I grew up on the edge of the prairie up north of Bartlesville in Copan. And at the time, there were only 5 speakers in Copan, and now there are none. It's kind of a surprising place to have speakers, but my family moved there from Oaks to help work the Mullendore Ranch for the Osage. And so they kind of had a little outpost of Cherokees up there. But we would go home to Oaks, and I would visit with my family, and I thought that the language was going strong there. And it was when I was young. But by the time I was in college, I realized that not only was the language a passion to me, it was something that was important for our people. And that young people like myself and our generation, the majority of us weren't able to acquire the language. We weren't able to learn it from our parents and our grandparents. For lots of reasons, no fault of the speakers, no fault of our learners. It just wasn't conducive to being able to live the language like our elders used to. They grew up in Cherokee-speaking communities. In Cherokee-speaking communities, now we have individuals that speak the language. Older folks in the family, they can all attest that, you know, there are young people that enter elementary school with the language, but somewhere along the way it gets lost. And by the time they hit my age, it's a memory. And there were some of our elders that were very concerned about passing on the language to us because they didn't want us to struggle the way that they did. Well, my generation realized that we had everything that they could give us. We had the education that they provided us. We had all of the privileges that they didn't have, but one of the needs that we realized that we were missing was our language, because it ties us directly to our identity. And we took it upon ourselves to work with our native speakers to try to bring it back. We had an idea that was crazy at the time. It was this idea that we would ask people to come and spend 40 hours a week for 2 years to learn the Cherokee language. We knew that when they left the program, they would not be native speakers. It's not their first language, and they won't be as proficient as a native speaker. But we believed that if we put the right teachers in place, the right speakers in place, and we used the right methodology, that through exposure to the language, using the language to teach the language, that we would create a younger generation of second language speakers. They aren't at the same level as our native speakers, as our first language speakers, but they have surpassed our initial goals. We thought that they would just be able to get by, that they would struggle to communicate. And we do struggle to communicate, but we're able to put ideas and words into language that we had hoped that one day we would see in our children and grandchildren, but people my age are able to communicate in Cherokee, and we proved to ourselves that it can be done. The language can be taught. So thank you to Chief, thank you to Secretary for believing in us and giving this opportunity to implement, to plant the language in these teachers, these parents, these young people so that they can give it to our children and grandchildren into the future. We're not done. We're always working on things. Under our Cherokee Language Master Apprentice program, we have 3 projects. We have the Master Apprentice program itself, which, as I pointed out, 40 hours a week for 2 years. We also have a language grant that we received through Administration for Native Americans, ANA, called the Native Language Community and Coordination Grant. There are 5 different tribes in this cohort. It's a 5-year grant. And our goal is to create a strategic plan for all the various language programs in the Cherokee Nation. There are almost a dozen of them, almost a dozen different programs that interact with language as a main priority of their mission. So we all sit together and we try to come up with strategy. We're working on curriculum alignment to make sure that we're all together on the same page when it comes to what we're teaching, how we're teaching, and why we're teaching it. And we're also working with the State Department of Education to ensure that alternative teaching certification can be administered to Cherokee teachers so they can go out into the public school systems and teach. And the 3rd program is brand new. It's something that we had seen as a need for quite some time, that when the kids leave the immersion school in 6th grade, they go into 7th and 8th grade, but their language activity really starts to drop off. And once they hit high school, if they go to Sequoia, then they're very limited on their language exposure. And if you don't get somebody up to a high enough speaking capability to where they can speak the language constantly, then their language will start to fade. Once they get up to a very high proficiency, we don't have to worry about them losing the language, but we wanted to make sure our kids were able to get there. And so we implemented an after-school program at Sequoia, primarily focused on immersion school graduates, but we include other interested students. It has a summer component where they spend at least 10 weeks over the summer on a daily basis learning Cherokee. We go on field trips and we participate in cultural activities. We have guest speakers. So the goal of that program is to strengthen and support the language that our young people at Sequoia High School have already been able to acquire and allow them to reach new heights. We always have new ideas and new hopes and goals for the language. But before I get too much deeper into this and put our learners on the spot, I wanted to introduce all of you to Udawadi's Coward Payton Dudo. He's our manager for the language program. I'm the curriculum supervisor, and we elected him as our leader to take us forward and make sure that we were able to get done the things that we needed to do. He's a pusher and he's a mover, and we admire that about him. And under his leadership, we've been able to grow, and our program improves every month. Every month we bring innovative ideas to the table. Our native speakers, as our teachers, they implement this process. And I would like for Howard to introduce those speakers here in a minute, but if everybody would let Howard say a few words, please. But don't.
Sulagat. Udawadi Stavado. Chalak Gawon His New Sestar Galostone Ho. Ali Georgia Naila, no. Kujunig Awatasi Dola, not Estit, not Bayan. I'm glad to be here today, and I'm glad that our leaders is here. There's no way that this could happen without them. Of course, we haven't paraded them around and everything that they do for us, but we brought some crazy ideas to them, and they was fine with that. And Chief was fine with it, and he didn't kick us out, and he embraced this. And there's no way that we could be doing what we do without it. I remember our first graduation, Chief stood up and said that God brought him, Ryan and I. And Chief, this has been something's been in my heart since I was 3. And God brought you to me. And I appreciate that. Secretary goes out of his way. And he's already nervous me talking about him because he's afraid I'll say as much as he goes out of his way, but he goes out of his way and answers phone calls from me in the afternoon sometimes. No, sir. He's always been helpful, and so I want to thank you guys. You guys are above anything I can imagine. So, well done, E.J. Allegiance. We want to introduce some folks. They are our pride and our joy. We have a few of them here. Diane, if you don't mind, raise your hand and stand up. This is one of our master speakers, Liebe Oost. And a church. In Jagui. We have one in North Carolina today, and she and her husband's out, and I think they're doing a revival in North Carolina and Cherokee, I believe. And we also have Rob Darty that has been helpful along the way. He's our director, and he's very approachable. I'm sure everybody already knows him because he's famous in the Cherokee Nation. All right, well, I'll sit down and let you guys get started, but thank you for everything. Well done.
Well, the success of our program rests on the shoulders of our native speakers as our teachers. However, despite their exemplary teaching skills, we are sometimes slow learners. So we take ownership of all of our mistakes, and we lift them up as the ones that have given us our successes. Just like our leaders that have paved the way for us, our speakers, they have something that we needed. They have the language, and we can't do this without them. Deanne, her English name is Cora Flute. Liusti's English name is Jerry Ross. Achuja's English name is Gary Van. Jagui's English name is Phyllis Sixkiller. And Rob Doherty, his Cherokee name is Ski Olstein. So we think it's hard for me to even think of them with their English names. Not only do we try to use their Cherokee names, sometimes we call them Talina Edgy, or we'll call them Eduj. Because for me and Howard, they're like our aunts and our uncles. And they told us when we started this, even when it was just a pilot, they said, what we're going to have to do is adopt you. Because the things that we're given to you is something that belongs to our family. So in order for you to receive it, you have to become our family. And that means that as our aunts and our uncles, they have not only the right, but the responsibility to correct us and set us straight. It's our job to make sure that the paperwork is done and that people get paid. We push them to clock in and clock out, and we help create plans, but they're really the ones that we look up to. And so we wanted to acknowledge them first. But we also want our learners to go ahead and introduce themselves, and I'm going to take the microphone, or should we make them come up here? I don't know if the camera can see them back there.
I think they'd be better up here.
All right, one at a time, huh?
Yeah.
Let's do the second year first. When we bring them in, over their first year, their job is to absorb as much Cherokee as possible. And after they go through that first year, it's their job to help the native speakers, the teachers, guide and facilitate the classroom. And so they learn the teaching techniques as well as continuing to absorb and develop their language. Agayagay san Uyut ahan Gadoga. Now Uyut was a native speaker when he was a young man. And as he got older, he lost his language. So as he comes into his language, he becomes a complete person. And it's amazing to watch him develop.
Uyut tawaton strategy.
Awatessa. Nangskon. Kako, Yawadet. Yeah. Utis. Kahid, Dudon, Oxtaihusk. Nung, Dawadatana. Talk and they get huge, talk and they huge. His juggalis, go you. Age, Aqual, Jalek Dudon, lazy, Yonega. Tostanas, Nelson Usti, Dudon, Donald, Yonega. My name is Ricky Duval. I grew up around Line Switch. I'm 47 years old. My wife's name is Kay. I've got 4 children and 5 grandchildren.
But don't.
What has this done for you? Like Ryan had mentioned earlier, I spoke growing up until I started school. My mom, it kills her, or it killed her, you know, having to talk English to me quite a bit as I started school, but I like it now. I don't like the situation we're in, that she's talking to me in Cherokee quite a bit, but I love it. Like I said, it was what I done first. I take Mom to doctors to Tulsa, and we'll be driving, and I'll be talking to her, going that, and she'd just be sitting there holding her purse. And she'd just say, "Do hail it, Jaleket's gonna." Oh man! So then I got to try to think of, you know, how I'm gonna say that in Cherokee, and I like it. Like I said, my dream is to, before she passes on, is to just sit and Khalil, Jalek. Yeah, I thank y'all for this program.
Silvergarden, Kuwait, Dawadon, Claremont, Awadana, Almo, Awatasadola, Legion, Janelle, not what tower though. Brandy, Dudon, Stayhus, Talk the Wedge, Sawa Gay, Sawa Chudge, Chudge, Sequel, Dudon, Gay, Uwal Do, Ujilesk, Digi Gaga Yolage, Sequel, Agor, Nuxcon, Top, Yawdatied. My name's Stan Ross. I was born in Claymore, raised in Salina, live in Leach now. Brandy's my wife. We have 2 kids. Jackson's his first name in English, and Kenzie's her name in English. I like what we're doing here. Like I said, I appreciate the Chief giving us the opportunity to do this. I feel real blessed to do it. I only wish that we could have done it earlier when I could talk to my mom and dad in Cherokee. They were fluent speakers. And my grandma, when I stay with her, she used to tell Mom and Dad I get the white kid today because she had to watch me and she had to speak English as well. I'm thankful for it. I just wish, like I said, I can talk to them in Cherokee. It'd been awesome. I get to talk to my uncles now in Cherokee. I understand when they're talking about me and what we're talking about now. Thank you for that. Like I said, can't thank y'all enough for giving us the opportunity to do this, Chief. Thank you.
What he said.
You want to hear?
Vadå? Siêu nó gái là lão anh đào đông nó khá stable lão thất sát đô xa hết hành chỉ từ đông chọn họ đào thân nó tạo chữ sáu cái hết sáu cái lý nâng school nâng our dead here the girl again Roger they don't age Katie they don't my name is Robert I have 3 kids 2 boys 1 girl I'm 44 got 1 grandson Michael they don't his name is Michael and grew up all over around Stillwell I'm very nervous right now. Anyway, I just want to thank everybody for this program. You know, without y'all, you know, I wouldn't. I was like Rick, my early days. I could speak, but I lost it somewhere. Don't know where, but lost it. You know, but it's been very blessed to get in conversations now with my family, my mom. You know, just to speak and understand. And like Stan said, know when they're talking about you. And it's been good. It's been good. You know, wish I knew more. I want more. You know, more of a program. I want more Cherokee. I want more everything to speak to everybody. I wish everybody could speak Cherokee and understand it. So I want, but I'm very blessed to be here and part of this. I thank
Well done.
all y'all let me be here today.
Okay. Well done. Okay. This is our youngest second-year fella, Udosset, and he was in the choir with Mary Kay, so he's been a lifelong language learner, and he's really learned a lot.
Siêu là gọi đó sự đầu tông công ý ở Tessa nè công ý Chanel talk school Chanel no
No, it's
yêu thế thì thì cái kia là cái nữ to nó tại này Mike and Dana Glass yon egg doing don't can they get any old
That's it.
Let's see. I said, can they get stay at her school or what? So, don't just down there. Don't old Jocelyn Let's see. Do at least do don't. Cody Van, Yonek, du don't. Sånt just down there. Ukayot, Aaron, du don't. So, I thought to, no, don't, I thought to Gia, Brayley, Kana, no, Tilly. Tilly, Doxy, Jalek, du don't. I said, Juke the Gista, Gio said. I just want to say I'm really thankful. Oh, I better translate. My name is Micah. I'm 28. I live in Greasy. I grew up in Greasy. My parents are Mike and Dana Glass. I got two brothers. One of them's Cody Van. The other one is Aaron Glass. I have three nieces. Aaron has Tilly. Her Cherokee name is Turtle, but I call her Bright Eyes because she's got bright blue eyes. And Cody has Brayley and Kana. And I don't know their Cherokee names yet, I told you. And I don't think Kana has one yet. So, oh, what else did I say? I was about to do that. I'm really grateful and thankful for this program, and I really do appreciate it. I had a really eye-opening experience about probably my third month in the program last year. My dad was asleep on the couch, and I opened the door, and when I opened the door, he woke up. And the first thing he said was, hot egg, which I knew what he said. He said, where are you going? You know, but it really hurt that my dad, I'm sorry, y'all, he had to think in English because he said, where are you going? And it really hurt that my dad had to think how to talk to me. You know, my own father can't even talk to me how he wants to. You know, and that was a real eye-opening experience for me. And I strive daily to try to learn more. Because I remember my granny telling me, you need to learn this, Chudge. You need to learn. She always loved hearing me sing. Learn these songs. Learn these songs. So that's why I was in the choir. Learn these songs. You need to know them. And then towards the end, you need to learn to speak, Chudge. You need to learn. And so I really strive because I still have my aunt. And I still got a bunch of cousins and my dad. And like Rick, you know, man, my goal, I just want to talk to my dad. before he goes. He's 60-something. I mean, I'm only 28. They were old when they had me. You know, they shouldn't have been having kids when they had me. I mean, my parents was old. I mean, my dad's 60-something. He's
60-something is not old.
But I mean, my whole dream is I just want to talk to my dad. You know, and if I can get that out of this, you know, like Lawan said too, I want more. You know, I don't come December, I don't want to leave. You know, I want more. I want more opportunities. I want to learn because I want to be able to talk to my dad. I want to be able to talk to Kathy. You know, I want to be able to talk to Lawan's dad, Roger, my cousin. You know, I want to be able to sit and talk with Rick and Lawan and Stan and all of them in the program. You know, I want us just to be able to meet somewhere and just talk. You know, because I can remember hearing my aunts and uncles and my granny and them just talk. And if you've ever just sat around Cherokee Speakers, man, it just sounds like beautiful music. I mean, it's poetry. There's nothing better. And I'm like, Lawan, you know, I strive that everybody can just talk Cherokee. That's all I want to hear because it's beautiful. You know, there's nothing more beautiful than just sitting in here and people talk. But that's all I got to say.
Don't. Those are our Taline Dini Don't, our second graders. We call them June tongue. That means big, but it also means grown up. So we call our first years, you know, June Steak because they're babies. The program does well. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress in learning a language that you don't understand, and we try to make it as pleasant as possible. But 8 hours a day in a language that you initially don't understand is always going to create some difficulty. And when we first started the program, you know, we noticed that everybody seemed to have the stomach flu over the first 2 weeks. So they would be outside during the breaks and they would be sick. And we would come up to them and say, "Are you okay? Do you need to go home?" And they said, "No, I brought my Tylenol, I'll be okay." So they were physically suffering from those internal changes in their mind and in their spirit. And before long, you saw little Tylenol bottles on everybody's desk. This is our fourth year in the program. Our first cohort had two graduates, Cody Van, Udosit's brother, who mentioned him earlier, and Don Duggar. Cody is Dutliest and Don is Elitam. And in our second cohort that came through had four graduates. There was Ronnie Duncan, Jeg, Tony Owens. We also have Juked, Larry Carney, and Jogan, which is Lisa Oldfield. Man, my English, I think of them in Cherokee, so sometimes I'm a little slow. But these are the graduates we've had so far, and come December, we're going to graduate our third cohort. And at some point, we're going to have to put a support group together just so everybody can stay in the language when they leave the program. Our goal was to create teachers. Our goal was also to create leaders. But the real reward is as they connect to their families, they connect to their community in the language. That's something that we did not plan for. That was not one of the goals we wrote on paper. But it is one of the most rewarding things that we found through this program. And a lot of our second year graduates are people from the community. And one of the things we wanted to do with our new cohort that we brought in last January, our fourth cohort, is we wanted to bring a more diverse group of people into it and provide them with language as well. And our second year folks have worked really hard with our speakers to try to pass on the language to them. And this cohort has done very well. Our first year cohort, our fourth cohort, they're learning at an alarming rate, and they're always pushing the speakers for more and more content and more Cherokee. So if they don't mind, we want them to come up at this point, and may as well line up like those older folks did and talk. Let's everybody come up here together, all you first year folks. These are Death Quasi, the Jana. Now these are just babies. They've been in the program for a little over 7 months. Again, higa he. Hawa.
Osio Nagad, Gohin Tawaton, Talik Janelle, Joplin, Awatessa Dola, the Guggy Gayelige, Michael, Sarah Dundon, Joe Ojatlanetle, Mary Betsy Dundon, do something. Jalagi Gawani Histi, Awadekwa, Gagwok Inad Igohidno.
Your name.
My name's Rebecca. I live in Tahlequah now. I grew up in Joplin. I'm just really happy to be in the program. I've been in it for 7 months now, and I feel like it's been an amazing opportunity to learn a lot.
Where'd you come from?
So I was doing, I went to college in Baltimore, and I lived out there for about 10 years. So I'm I'm 32 years old now, so I spent most of my adult life out there, and so so it's been a big change, but I'm really happy to be here.
What on? Louis. Yon, come on in here. Yon is our baby.
Yon Dawadon, Dalik, Janelle, Welling, Awatessa. Diga Giga Yulige, Tanya, Ole Ben Dunadon.
You used to have a YouTube.
Gina Wall, no.
Let's get done. Gina Wall.
My name is Yon. Rochelle. I live in Tahlequah. I grew up in Welling. Tanya and Ben are my parents, and I'm cold.
Yeah.
I've been in the program for 7 months.
Allow you to date yet?
Tot school. Y'all would date 20 years old. And my mom pushed me to get into the program, and now I'm here. I'm like, let's do it. But maybe up here now.
Hold on. Pedisi. What down? Sure.
Shio, Amzushka, Dabadon, Talik Janelle, Jalikuwek, Awatessa, Ostinel, John Dudon, Top Davadatina, Ani Age, Kendra, Ale Rhiannon Dudon. Hello, my name's Amy Postoak. I am originally from Cherokee, North Carolina. I live in Tahlequah now. My husband is John, and we have 2 daughters. Their names are Kendra and Rhiannon. My oldest daughter is in the immersion program here. She did transfer from Cherokee, so it's been a smooth transition for her. And I'm looking at putting my youngest daughter in the immersion program whenever she turns 3 and is able to go into that program. The reason I'm here, whenever I was old enough to remember, so I'd say I was 6 or 7. My grandmother, she looked at me and she said, Kawi Aktadeg. Okay, and she looks, Kawi Aktadeg, and she kind of pushed her coffee cup toward me. And I said, okay. I said, am, Tina. And I looked and I was like, well, what's she talking about? So she calls my mom in, her name was Emmeline, M. So she tells her to come in here. And she said, Kawi Aktadeg. Oh, okay. And she takes her coffee cup and goes and gets her some coffee and brings it back to her. And I was like, I couldn't do that. That made me so sad. And something so simple can really just change your life. So I've been an avid Cherokee language learner for my entire life. Just basically trying to get more and more and more. And it was all through school. It was the school 45 minutes a day, 3 times a week, basics. So I came into this program thinking I knew something, and you don't. But it's really an awesome feeling to learn those things. My grandmother has since passed away, but when I see her again, I'll be able to tell her about my family. Thank you.
Steve.
Weg Awado, Ku Janela, Jag Awachesta, Joint School Awadipia. My name's Julissa Flute. I live in Mulberry. I grew up in Bunch, and I'm 30 years old. And I'm glad that y'all have this program.
Tell us something about yourself.
Cora's my aunt. She's staring at me. No.
Sim na dana.
I understand Cherokee fluently. I just can't produce it, and I'm trying. So I get really nervous.
Kita awesome na dana. Wadang.
Seal Nagad, Dalala, Dodon, Nayodal, Janelle, Jeg, Ukedalia, Awatansa. The Gurgi Gayalaga, Dewi, Jagesa, Gayhoet, Edgy, Gayhoet Dudon. Sawu Jostadana, Waleli, Dudon. Galia Liga, Jagedon, Kohik.
What your name, Moni?
My name is Eric. I'm from Rocky Mountain, and I was raised in the Jake community. My dad's name was David, and my mom's name is Irvina, and I have one brother, and his name is Christian, and I'm happy to be here.
Wadang. Come on. I does.
Sio Nagat, Uloga Tawaton, Still Willie Awatasa, Talik Chinel, Hisco Jatlan Etla, the Guggy Galegay, Carney Duncan, Dundol. Jeez, what?
Hello?
My name is Sean Duncan. My parents are Kim and Carney Duncan. I'm 29 years old. I come from Stillwell, but I live in Tahlequah now.
Wadang. We do say.
So, George Dawadon, Kimwood Awatessa Dola, Nojik Galaweti, Janela, Stahaska, Melody, Yonek Dudon, Joko, Jalek Dudon. Tall da Dugia, Nathan Yoneg Dudo, see the good test, Gillette Dudo, see Calvin Yoneg Dudo, East Gillette Dudo. Name's Jonathan Black Bear. I grew up around the Kenwood area. My family, Nagad, all speakers. My generation and below, especially in our area, there are very few speakers, if any. So they've told me time and time again, you grew up around the language, you grew up around speakers. It's there. We just got to find it and get it back out. And there's days it's a struggle. There's days I hear things and it makes sense. This has been a great journey for me, and it's just the start, I believe. When I first heard about the program, it was something I truly had a passion to pursue. I spent the last 7 years in health. I still have people coming up to me asking me, I've got this and this at the pharmacy, can you help me? So, well, I'm not there anymore, so. But I seen that, and I seen the need to have that for our elders and those that were coming in. So if there's the way I can get this, what belongs to us, and what belongs to us is our language, to help those that are there that need that help, need that understanding. I've told all of them is that I believe we could help so many that are first language speakers if they had somebody there to help translate for them, to help bring them through that. So this has been a passion for me. This has been something that's truly I've jumped into. And yeah, there's days I struggle. There's days, Melody has told me, there's days I'll get in the car and just sit there. And she lets me have that time, and then we speak going home. So she knows those days are tough. And that's the other thing. When you have family, Jalek, Sudanella, that's there to support you, that makes a world of difference also. So I'm very thankful for everything that our directors, our teachers, everybody that's done to help further this program along. I believe we're building something, and from what I've seen, being here 7 months, going into our 8th month, you know, the sky's the limit on what we're going to be able to do. Thank you.
Justin, Usquasti.
I'll be quick, since I guess we're almost done here. Digo Alisk Dawado, Dalik Janelle, Guso Awatasa, Nug Awadatanat, Grant, Jimmy, Doxy, Jincy. Jimmy, Doxy, and Jincy, Jalek Immersion Jundel Quast. So, my name is Jeremy. I was born in Muskogee. I live in Tahlequah now. I've got 4 kids, Grant, Jimmy, Doxy, and Jincy. And Jimmy, Doxy, and Jincy all go out at the immersion school. Well, Jimmy's a freshman now at Sequoia, so they're getting up there, and I couldn't be prouder. Somewhere about 4 generations ago, Cherokee language left my family. We moved away from the immediate community, so by the time I came along, there was nobody in my family that spoke or knew the history or the Cherokee language. But when we found out about the immersion school, I saw it as an opportunity to kind of correct that, to bring us back into the community, and certainly to bring language back into the house. But then when I found out about this program and I applied to it, I needed to be able to do my part in my family to help bring the language back home. So I'm just thankful to have the opportunity to do that here and with my master speakers. And it's a family now. It's not even really a school, you know. So I couldn't be happier.
Well done. I'm not going to point them out, but some of our students don't just have bachelors. Some of them have graduate degrees. And so we have a diverse group. We have community people. We have people that were slightly from outside the community, and they're coming together as one family. I know it was important for them all to be able to speak and tell you a little bit about themselves. But this is an example of some of the stuff that we do right behind me. You see little pictures, and then there's a story that goes with it. This is something that we practice at the Ignite conference. The idea is called comprehensible input, that the pictures help make the information that's written down, the story itself, the narrative, understandable. So that's very valuable. We had hoped to do kind of a demonstration here with this language, but we were, what's the word? We were optimistic. But this is the first thing they learn. I mean, we have a curriculum, but the curriculum is a map to learning. And ultimately, the native speakers, the fluent speakers, have the real curriculum inside of them. And so the first thing they want them to be able to do is to talk about themselves and to talk about their family and to ask them questions. So they came up here and they gave you brief introductions, but that wasn't memorized. That was a result of practice. That was a result of using the language in its everyday discourse. Functional language is our goal. People made mistakes sometimes with pronunciation. I make mistakes. Our speakers correct us. They set us right. And at some point, our language gets better and better. But it's not just those introductory words like da, do, days, do, do, don't. It's not just those things that they learn. That's just the beginning. We introduce them to things out in the environment and the community, and they learn these concrete ideas and words and phrases first, how to interact with their environment, to talk about the environment around them, and then they dive into deeper concepts. When you have the vocabulary to describe the world around you, you can start to talk about abstract ideas. And that's really where the language lives, in these abstractions. Our elders that spoke only Cherokee, they passed on the language to the generation above us, and they were bilingual. But their primary language was Cherokee. Their very deepest, most valuable thoughts and feelings stayed within the Cherokee language. They could function in English, but their values, their beliefs, and the reasons for them lived in the Cherokee language. And they got up to a proficiency where they could communicate with their kids, but when it came time for their kids to really understand those deep concepts, the English just didn't meet those needs. And so our bilingual speakers that are native language speakers first, they had these values. They have this abstract language which carries our worldview and our real identity. And they weren't really able to pass those things on. So our young people had to learn from their peers, teachers, other people in the family, and they didn't get that inherently Cherokee value system in the same way that our elders did. And so this next generation is trying to capture that higher language so that those values can be passed on in the language that they were given to our ancestors. And by passing on those values, it's going to increase the well-being and health of our children and grandchildren, because there's a break. When you cannot describe those things that are the most important to you in a language that your children and grandchildren understand, it gets lost. Now, we don't have time to wait for the kids to speak. We're pushing adults to learn the language so they can pass it on too. It's everybody's responsibility. And we're thankful for the opportunity to take on this challenge. I know our speakers get very frustrated with this, but we appreciate all that they do. We can't do it without the speakers, without our leaders, and ultimately without Unay Lana. The provider of all things is the one that gave us this language, and it's a sacred thing. And you cannot learn even what little Cherokee we've been able to capture without changing your spirit, without changing who you are. And as you go through that change, sometimes it's painful and sometimes it's a struggle. But ultimately, when you walk out on the other side, even with a little bit more Cherokee than you started with, you're a different person. And for those people that are able to reach the highest levels of language learning that we've been able to provide, they can see into a different world. They have a different understanding of reality. Our native speakers live in this world. They think in this world. So they don't know what it's like to be handicapped like our learners are. We didn't know what we were losing until we had the opportunity to gain it, until we felt that world, until we were able to interact in Cherokee and see the world through those eyes. We didn't even know what we were missing. And so our goal is to create teachers, to infuse our communities with the Cherokee language. But in the process, we're creating a family of people that are regaining not just the language, but something that they didn't even know that they had lost. I know we don't have any time left. I would hope that maybe we can come back in the future and do a demonstration, but it was really important for you all to become introduced to our students and learn their story. A few questions? All right, will you field them? Sure. I want. Howard will answer all your questions.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Pat?
For those of us who are a little more advanced than others, you introduced year one, year two. You also mentioned first cohort, second cohort. And I look around and I see folks like Don and Larry. And I don't know where they fall in the chronology, so could you explain from the very beginning to?
Don was one of two that graduated at the very first cohort. Then we had Larry, Tony. They was the second. Now we're about to graduate the third, and then we have the fourth that was.
Okay, so it's been 4 cohorts.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I know we've probably talked a whole bunch, so I don't see a lot of people answering questions. So thank you so much for coming out, and appreciate and thank you for supporting our language.
Applications are available online, right?
Applications are available online, or you can stop by the office and get a hard copy. And the second floor above the Callaway Cafe. Application deadline is October 1st. So if you know anybody wants to apply for next year.
So it's a 2-year program, and it's like a college curriculum?
Not exactly, no. Because we've had you literally come in and you sit down and we stop speaking, or they stop speaking any English to you, and little by little acting things out, that sort of thing. You start to learn the basics, and then we just grow you from there.
Well, I feel a little
Speakers.
handicapped myself. I started a Cherokee language class one time at a church, and I didn't catch on much. So, I mean, I feel a little old. You're wanting young people to do this, but I really want to learn the language.
But we welcome your application. Okay. All right. I think I'm gonna call it quits. Thank you guys, and enjoyed this presentation so well. Thank you, Ryan. You did an excellent job.